Even though there are just 6 games tonight in daily fantasy baseball, there aren't a lot of duds in there. And I don't mean duds as far as like bad pitchers. What I mean is in regards to most pitchers you can either use as a pitcher in DFS or you can stack against them. There are 4 legitimate good pitching options for tonight, one of which is a value play. There are 4 pretty solid stacks and 2 really good stacks available as well. So even though it's a 6-game slate, I think it's a pretty solid one and one we can feel good about when filling out lineups for tonight. We'll dig into who I'm turning to when doing so, favorite options in each category, and much more to get you ready for Wednesday night. Welcome on into the solo shot. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a managing editor of digital media for FanDuel Research, here to break down Wednesday night's 6-game main slate with locks set for 6:40 p.m. Eastern for tonight. Once again, lock for tonight on FanDuel, 6:40 p.m. Eastern for the MLB DFS main slate. Couple of weather notes, both of which are wind related. First one is in New York for the Mets and the Rangers. Winds are out to right at 12 miles per hour. That is a bump up for batters. At Coors Field for the Braves and the Rockies, winds are out to center at 11 miles per hour. That's why the total there is 13.5 runs. So bump up bats to the Braves and Rockies and Mets and Rangers, and feel good about the teams there. And plenty of those teams will be featured in our stacking and things to watch for today. We'll dive on into the pitching section first in just 1 second. But first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to the Number Fire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed wherever you get your podcast, because we are just 8 days away from our Week 1 NFL DFS preview via myself and Brandon Gadula. You can find that right here on the FanDuel YouTube page and FanDuel TV Plus, as well as a reminder, you can now find FanDuel TV Plus on your desktop. Go to FanDuel.com/watch and then just log in with your FanDuel account to watch Up and Adams live. You can also check out the solo shot, the heat check for football, covering the spread, all in the same place. So get all the fantastic FanDuel TV content along with your favorite Number Fire podcasts just by going to FanDuel.com/watch, or again, it's the FanDuel TV Plus app on Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, or Roku devices as well. Get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL, must be 21 plus and present in select states. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. First online real money wager only, $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Illinois, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. 1-800-522-4700. Visit ksgamblinghealth.com in Kansas. 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. mdgamblinghealth.org in Maryland. 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia. Call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-AND-WIRE, text HOPE-AND-WIRE in New York. NFL Sunday Ticket offer ends 9/18/23. No refunds. Terms and embargoes apply. $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket, not YouTube TV. YouTube TV base plan required to watch YouTube TV. Redemption requires a Google account and current form of payment. Commercial use is excluded. Let's dig in now to the pitching preview here for today, based on the salaries over at FanDuel.com, where we find Garrett Cole at the top. His salary is $11,100, followed by Zach Eflin at $10,000. Jesus Luzardo is $96,000, with Ryan Pepio coming in at $8,500. Now, the stacking section for today is loaded with a lot of high salary bats. So if you don't want to / can't get to Garrett Cole, I understand it. Let's run through the case for Cole and why it's at least worth giving some consideration to him. Despite that salary at 11-1, I think you can make it work with a couple of the stacks we'll discuss later on. Now, the Yankees not in contention for the playoffs anymore, And when that's the case, you can see guys get scaled back in these scenarios. That has not happened yet with Cole. So I'm on board with him as a top pitcher despite this high salary. Cole, when 100 pitches last time out, he did go 86 the start before that, but that was due to performance, not because of pitch count. That was and then I think the other thing too is worth noting is that the performance came back for Cole last time out. 11 strikeouts there, facing the Rays across 7 2/3 innings. So even though the Yankees are not playing for a whole lot right now, Cole is still pitching hard. We had 12 starts on Cole with his cutter usage being up, and he has a 28% strikeout rate in that time. His hard hit rate allowed is 37%, about average, not bad. Definitely will take that, given his strikeout rate. He's facing Detroit today. They have a 91 WRC plus against righties with a 25% strikeout rate. It is also cooler in Detroit today than other spots at 66 degrees. So I think it all lines up pretty well for Cole. I'm projected for 6.9 strikeouts here. That's not a monster number by any means, but it's definitely good enough to make him a solid option. Now, with that said, he is not a must-use option because there are lower salary guys who do have upside. And I think that one I like a lot beneath Zach Eflin is actually Jesus Luzardo. So Eflin's fine. I don't mind him, but Luzardo's salary a bit lower. And I like the upside here. Now, it's worth mentioning it's a tough matchup for Luzardo. He's facing off with the Rays, who have a 115 WRC plus against lefties. So that's still tough, just not as tough as it used to be. And I think that does give us a window to use Luzardo as a pitcher here at $9,600. And a big part of that is strikeouts. The Rays have a 25% strikeout rate against lefties on the current active roster, which ranks second on the slate. And Luzardo actually leads the slate in strikeout rate in each guy's most relevant sample. He's at 29% in a 15-start sample where he's been throwing more changeups. Now, the results for Luzardo have not always been great. He had 2 really rough outings earlier on this month, and they did come in tough matchups, which could be concerning here as he gets another tough matchup once again. But the Padres are good against lefties as well, and he faced them last week and held them scoreless for 6 innings with 7 strikeouts and 1 walk. So I feel like those 2 blips for Luzardo, not massive issues. I have Luzardo projected right at 7 strikeouts for tonight. That is actually a hair above Cole. So I'm okay going with him here, even in a risky matchup. So Luzardo, for me, the preference above Eflin behind Cole, and Luzardo's salary being 96 should allow you to get to part of a Coors Field stack at least, or some other stuff as well. So that's palatable. If you want to go bananas at hitter for tonight, you have incentive to spend down. And I think there is actually a guy you can use down there who has at least a path to upside. And that guy is Dane Dunning. Now, Dunning is facing the Mets, which means he is in a place where the wind is blowing out for today, and that is good for offense. And the Mets offense is still good. So there are pretty obvious downsides here. But Dunning's pitching pretty well right now. He's done well broadly since he moved into rotation about 20 starts ago. But more recently, things have been even better for Dunning, at least from an upside perspective. And that's despite the fact he's been throwing more sinkers in this time. Typically, sinkers lead to fewer strikeouts. But over Dunning's past 7 starts with more sinkers, he has a 27% strikeout rate. He's also allowing just a 28% fly ball rate, which is the best number on the slate. As a result, Dunning's skill interactive ERA in this time, it's 3.93. It's a very good number. Now, the results have been mixed. He's had some rough games in there, but he also had a 12 strikeout game and an 11 strikeout game in there, which says to me that Dunning has upside. The Mets might not allow him to get to that upside because they have just a 21% strikeout rate against righties. And again, the wind is rough for tonight, but I still like Dunning broadly, and his salary is $7,700. So if you want to go bananas with your bats for tonight, Dane Dunning is a pretty good route to doing so. So I think there is enough working in Dunning's favor to make him a viable DFS play for tonight if you want to go absolutely nuts with your stacking options at Coors Field and elsewhere. So I would say Dunning is at least in the mix for my top pitcher of the night, all things considered, because that salary is so low and because he at least has a path to giving you maybe double-digit strikeouts on a very good day. Let's dig into why Dunning is enticing, and that is the stacking options, because the stacking options are what are driving us towards trying to save some salary. The Braves, in their final game at Coors Field, facing Kyle Freeland, and we got the full green light to stack them, as you would expect. Freeland has gotten back to using his slider a lot over his past 13 starts, and I typically love sliders because they're high strikeout pitches. But this change hasn't helped Freeland enough. He has a 13% strikeout rate in that time with a 5.37 skill interactive ERA. His hard hit rate allowed is 47%. So that's a rough combo across the board, letting up tons of balls in play, and those balls in play are typically well struck. Now, Freeland has to go up against an offense with a 140 WRC plus against lefties. Their ISO is 242 for the Braves. It is absurd, and you're putting those absurd numbers at Coors Field, which means we should be there, even though we know they'll be popular for tonight. So stack the Braves if you want to get different, maybe differentiate which guys you use within that stack. But I think the Braves really need to be higher list for tonight. Now, the Braves faced a lefty on Monday, too. And in that game, they had Orlando Arcia hit seventh. And Arcia has hit for a lot of power against lefties this year. So it's a small sample, and that's not always been the case for him. But it's not totally out of nowhere. His fly ball rate is 37%. Again, they're moving him up in the order. So I think with the salary being $3,300, we can feel pretty good being high on Orlando Arcia for tonight. Kevin Pillar, also a guy, $2,900. Maybe just get your value plays from Coors Field to differentiate. I know it's tough to pass up Ronald Acuna Jr., but at least the salary is massive to make that pain a bit lesser. But I do think that guys like Arcia and Pillar can allow you to get on the Braves without breaking the bank and potentially get there at a bit lower roster rate than with some of their other players. I'm going to put the Rangers second for stacking, and that's another reason that Dunning is helpful, is because the Rangers also come with high salaries. The Rangers facing Denny Reyes. He's coming back up from AAA to start this game, and early numbers in the majors for Reyes won't blow you away. He has a 21% strikeout rate with a 12% walk rate, and those are in line with what you'd expect when you look at his AAA numbers. The walks are a bit lower in AAA, but also so is the strikeout rate, 18% down there in that department. He also let up a ton of hard contact and fly balls, and that led to an ERA of 5.80. On a lot of slates, the Rangers would be the best stack of the night. They're second tonight only because it's the Braves against a lefty at Coors Field. Otherwise, the Rangers would be phenomenal. They have a 113 WRC plus against righties. They have a lot of power, so I think we should be very high on them tonight, all things considered. And even if it does force us to spend down a pitcher, I think that is a worthwhile trade-off. Now, not everybody we want to use in the Rangers has a high salary, because Mitch Garver has moved to fifth in the order, in part because of injuries to guys like Josh Young, but he also did earn it because Garver has a 285 ISO against righties this year with a 43% fly ball rate. His salary is $3,000. I think that's too low for where he's batting and the power that he has. So want to be on Garver tonight, whether it is in stacks, one-offs, whatever it may be. I think Mitch Garver is a phenomenal play within this Rangers lineup. Finally, the Yankees are in Detroit, which is not a good park factor in general, and it's just 66 degrees today. So because of that, you could consider ranking the Rockies above them. I think that these two teams, the Yankees and the Rockies, are in the same tier, where they're good stacks versus the Rangers and Braves, who are great stacks. I'm going to give the Yankees the slight edge, though. They're facing Joey Wentz, who's coming back up from AAA. Wentz had been struggling, thus the demotion, and he's been tinkering with throwing more changeups recently, and it's helped in some areas because his hard hit rate has gone down a bit, but Wentz is still letting up a ton of fly balls, and it's led to an ERA that is still above 5. Now, if Wentz were a righty, I would not put the Yankees above the Rockies, because the Yankees much worse against righties than lefties. But against lefties, active roster has a 117 WRC plus. Their ISO is 221. I think that helps push them over the top to make the Yankees a good stack for tonight. And it also helps that, there are just a lot of dudes in this team who hit for power against lefties. You've got Aaron Judge, Gleyber Torres, Giancarlo Stanton, Anthony Volpe, and Harrison Bader. Those guys are probably going to bat second through sixth for them tonight. And all those guys have an ISO of at least 200 against lefties for the season. I think you could also toss Everson Pereira in there. Good numbers in the minors, both in AA and AAA. Salary is $2,100. So your value stack of the night is the Yankees. Obviously, Judge is not included as far as the value part, but like if you get 4 Yankees who aren't Aaron Judge, it's going to make things a lot easier for you. That's also the other tiebreaker for putting the Yankees above the Tigers is they can save us a lot of salary in a good matchup and get us salary savings without sacrificing power within the guys we are using. Now let's move to things to watch. And as mentioned, the Rockies right there with the Yankees for stacking. They're facing Darius Vines, who's making his big league debut. And Vines had good results in AAA, so a lot of excitement there, but was a small sample because he missed a lot of time this year due to a shoulder injury. Vines is not a huge ground ball guy, so I think you can get to them here because it's Coors Field, because the wind is blowing out. But to me, they're on par with the Yankees versus being above them, despite the fact they're the ones at Coors Field. I'm not totally opposed to either side of the Royals or Pirates. Royals are facing Andre Jackson, who lets up a lot of hard contact in the Royals. ISO against righties up to 164, so getting better in that regard. They've got some guys who can hit for power. I think that could be viable for tonight. Pirates are facing Angel Zerpa. They struggle a lot more against lefties and righties, and Zerpa is a lefty. So this would be more for one-offs than for full stacks, but the Pirates not totally out of play. They're more considerations. So to me, the tiering of stacks is phenomenal stacks are Braves and Rangers. Good stacks are the Yankees and Rockies. And then the others to consider would be the Royals and the Pirates. Let's finish up here with the dinger calls for today. And I had a couple down, but I've decided to call an audible mid-show here today because I talked myself pretty heavily into the Yankees while we were talking. So for the boring home run call, probably just going to go Ronald Acuna Jr. Why not? I don't know. Maybe that's too boring. Is that too boring? Kind of feels too boring. Let's go with Orlando Arcia. I know that's not like a typical boring home run call where it's like, oh, this guy is always hitting dingers, but Arcia has some power. He's at Coors Field, so it's not the most fun call. So we'll go with Arcia as being the boring home run call for tonight. For the fun one, I want to go Anthony Volpe. I know that he's had some power recently. Maybe you're thinking this kind of like point chasing, but he's hit for power against lefties all year long. He's in a spot where he's facing a guy who lets up a lot of fly balls, moving up a bit in the order. So let's do it. Why not? Let's go Anthony Volpe as the fun home run call. So Orlando Arcia, Anthony Volpe, 2 dinger calls for today. What could possibly go wrong with those being the 2 names we are focusing on for tonight? That's all that we have here for today on the Solo Shot. Do not forget that lock is at 6:40 p.m. Eastern for today, so get those lineups in early. As a reminder, make sure you're subscribed to the Number Fire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. We are here every weekday, still through the end of MLB season. Also have UFC for select events via Austin Swaim and NFL just around the corner. If you've got any questions for me, I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast and FanDuel Research at FanDuel Research. Want to thank you all for tuning in. Good luck to you with your MLB DFS lineups for tonight. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow to break down Thursday's slate. This has been the Solo Shot right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.